For the people who read that title and are horrified about potential consequences for making this video, I am too. This video is not meant to be indicative of these denominations, and I'm just purely looking at it from a gameplay perspective in CK3. If you're still upset by this video because I put your real life denomination lower than another in a video game, I really don't know what to tell you. Anyways, let's start the list. I'm also not doing these by any particular order, I'm just doing them by random. So adoptionism is kind of a strange case, in my opinion. It has communion, which allows characters to seek indulgences from their head of faith, but they don't have a head of faith in either 867 or 1066. So one of their 3 tenets is literally useless upon game start, so that's pretty bad. Their second tenet is literalism, which isn't that good on paper. All it allows you to do is debate people in your realm in order to gain or lose piety, but it does add a few virtues to the faith, which is always a good thing, because whenever a trait's virtuous, it gives you a +10 opinion of people in your faith, a +1 piety a month, and a +10 vassal opinion, so that's always great. It also has religious law, which is basically when a ruler with high learning can actually condemn sinful vassals and just take away their titles from them, which is decent. I never ever had this tenet in any of my religions. I'll put up all the sins and the virtues for each religion I go over. It's just a lot easier than naming every single one out, because honestly, a lot of these are going to be repeats, like lustful, compassionate. Just all these things are basically going to be in every single one of these, so yeah. I'm going to skip over those and just put them on screen. Other than the tenets and the virtues, the main doctrines, they are fundamentalist, which I honestly prefer over every single other one. I hate my counties being of hostile faith, so I like that one. In the doctrines, they're monogamous. In clergy, it's basically like the bland Catholic one, so yeah. Honestly, it doesn't actually look that bad. Honestly, I think out of every single place I'll put it, I think it's going in B tier, honestly. It definitely isn't that bad at all. Besides the whole communion thing, but otherwise, yeah, it's pretty good. Next up, we have Adamitism. I'm not gonna lie, this one's trash. This one is garbage. It's basically the meme faith of Catholicism. Communal identity sucks. Minus 50% conversion speed, and counties of a different culture. So basically, outside of your 20 counties that actually have your culture, just don't convert at all. Sanctity of nature, plus 10% building construction cost. Popular opinion +5. Attrition taken in jungle, minus 25%. Advantage in jungle, +5. Attrition in forest, you know, basically the exact same things for forest and taiga. If you're in Europe, forest and taiga are going to be your only benefits from this. And +2, minus 25% attrition taken. I've never had an issue with attrition in this game, so that's kind of useless. Advantage is decent though. Natural primitivism. Adherents don't wear clothes. Law cost plus 50%, which is useless. Stress gain, stress loss, minus 25%. It's pretty good. Sins are basically the Catholic ones, somehow. Looking at the marriage doctrines, you can have concubines. Divorce is always allowed, which I actually like. Unrestricted marriage. Marriage between all family members is allowed. That's horrible. Crime doctrines, everything is accepted. This one is garbage. I'm putting it in D. Next up, we have Messalianism. I'm guessing is how you say it. Which is basically Adamitism's kind of brother faith here. Looking at their things, carnal exhalation makes lustful a virtue, makes chaste a sin. Lustful is horrible. Having more kids in this game is usually a horrible idea, unless you have primogeniture, but next up is divine marriage, which I just talked about recently in Adamitism. And then we have esotericism, which honestly, I don't really mind. Children with the learning education focus may gain the wise man trait, which is also a virtue in the faith. I don't mind having the wise man trait, and making it a virtue is definitely not a bad thing at all. It's definitely a more calm version of Adamitism. You can only marry monogamous. You can't divorce people whenever you want to though. And you can marry your family members too, so that's nice. Looking at the crimes, everything is accepted except kinslaying, where apparently you can't kill close kin, but everyone else is okay. 2 of its tenets are horrible, and the third one is honestly kind of a lower tier one to have. So yeah, it's going in D, just a little bit higher than Adamitism though. Taking a break from meme religions, we have Polycanism. Polycanism is kind of a really strange one. Anaconism, which is one of its tenets, gives you a lot of piety from artifacts, and also a minus 33% in both building time and building costs for temples. Personally, I think that's useless. Unless you're the head of the faith, building temples can help a little bit, but not nearly as much as building castles. There's also Gnosticism, which considers other Gnostic and dualist faiths to be righteous. Gnostic and dualist faiths are barely ever on the map at any point, and plus it gives you a minus 2 stewardship and plus 2 learning. Having more learning is never a bad thing, but having minus 2 stewardship is absolutely horrible. So this one's pretty bad. I definitely do not like this one. And for the last one, it has Unrelenting Faith, where members of the clergy can actually serve as commanders or knights. But since you can't actually appoint your clergy with this faith, you're gonna have a ton of old guys serving as commanders or knights. And honestly, that's not a great idea. It does give every single Polycan a plus 4 prowess and a plus 2 faith hostility advantage, which is amazing, in my opinion. If you look at the screen right now, you're gonna notice that there's a lot of sins for this faith. Being a pilgrim is a sin in this religion. And so is being a Haji. I don't know why you'd be a Haji if you're following Polycanism. It's kind of strange. They don't allow you to do pilgrimages in this faith, but everything else is kind of normal. Honestly, it's not too bad. It's not too good. I'm gonna put it in C. But Gomalism is bad. It has Gnosticism, and like I just said, every bonus is kind of okay, but every downside is pretty horrible. It has Mendicant Preachers, which I actually really like putting in my custom religions. It gives it plus 33 county conversion speed, which is great. It also makes Temperate a virtue and Gluttonous a sin. Making sure that Gluttonous is not one of your traits is always something that I try to do. So honestly, I really like it. The worst thing about it is that it has Pacifism. Pacifism, like is in the name of it, you can't declare holy wars or raid. Raiding's not really that important, especially if you're feudal. But holy wars though, that's a pretty bad one. It makes Calm a virtue, and it makes Wrathful a sin. Wrathful I barely ever see on my characters, so whatever. It also gives you a plus 1 domain limit. Other than that, everything else, marriage, crime, clergy, is kind of basic. I really hate pacifism. Not being able to declare holy wars doesn't seem that bad, but every single time I take it or use pacifism in one of my tenets, it always seems to come up and really affect something. So yeah, this one, it's not nearly as bad as Adamitism or the other one, but it's going in very low C. This one is kind of boring. It has this Anaconism, which is the one where I was talking about the piety and the temple building. It has Mendicant Preachers, which like I said I like, and it has Vows of Poverty. I don't really like Vows of Poverty, honestly. Reducing monthly tax income for piety gain is almost never ever worth it. Everything else is just bland, average stuff. It has a ton of sins and virtues though. Being greedy is a sin with this one. I don't really mind taking greedy, and making it a sin's pretty bad. I don't know. I'm gonna put it in C too. Lottery gets a D. It's not that good. Literalism is okay. Pacifism is horrible. Anaconism, like I said, is horrible. Just not a very good Christian denomination to play with in CK3. Iconoclasm. It's okay. If you're converting to this faith, it's likely that you're probably converting somewhere in the Byzantine Empire. I don't want to lean too heavy into that, because honestly, I kind of want to do it in a way where I'm not being biased like that because obviously being Lollardy is probably going to be decent in England, but not in, I don't know, Mongolia, for example. So it's kind of the same with Iconoclasm, where obviously they do good in the Byzantine Empire because they have their holy sites all around that general area. Their tenets and iconism, like I said, horrible. Communion is bad when you don't have a head of faith. But like I said, if you're converting in the Byzantine Empire, it won't be that big of an issue. And you'll be able to take advantage of that pretty easily. They also have the Pentarchy, which is a +1 yearly fervor per holy site held. And they also get a bonus on completing a pilgrimage. I don't remember what that bonus is, but it's not that crazy of a bonus. I think the Pentarchy would be decent if you were actually able to do crusades with this faith, because the only thing that stops crusades from happening is the fervor for the religion. I'm pretty sure it needs to be over 80 or 90 or something, or 95 maybe even. So having 5 extra fervor can definitely help that along. But since you don't, I mean, there's nothing bad with it, really. There's nothing here that sticks out as a really bad tenet. Aniconism, even though it doesn't really affect you in a positive way that much, it's okay, you know. I'm probably going to put it in low B. Looking at Catharism, it has Gnosticism, Pacifism, and Reincarnation. So it's probably one of the most wild Christian denominations in this game. Just based on how strange it is to actually think of reincarnation in a Christian faith. But really, what else is there to talk about here? 2 horrible tenets. 1 tenet which I barely ever use in any of my playthroughs. Apparently in this denomination, you can't divorce your spouse, which is horrible. But same-sex relationships are fully accepted. There's nothing really here that's worth what it gives you. Nothing at all. I'm gonna put this one in high D. And here we have one of my favorite denominations in real life and in this game. I just think it's so strange how far it actually spread. Mendicant preachers, monasticism, which I really like. Anything to get rid of male heirs and only have one, I'll take it. And then we have Eastern syncretism. If you're on the right 1/3 of the map, this one will be a huge help for you. It is pluralist, which gives you a -20 conversion speed. I hate that. Everything else in doctrines is normal. Nothing too crazy. I really like this one. I've played with it a few times, and I've enjoyed it every single time. I'm going to probably put it in high B, actually. If you say that you've played with this faith, you're lying. Communal identity, horrible. Communion, actually good. Because their head of faith is actually the Pope. So yeah, that's pretty good for them. And they have Jewish syncretism. There's less than 5 Jewish counties on the map. Well, I guess that's not true. The Khuzarites are up there, but really, it's kind of 2 small areas. One of which usually goes away in 10 years. And the other one up there usually is super weak. So it's really, is that really important? Other Christian faiths are considered astray instead of hostile with this one, which is great, because I'm pretty sure it means no holy wars and no crusades called against you. It has 6 sins, though, and 5 virtues. So there's more sins in this religion than virtues. I don't see that as a good trade, especially when one of those is greedy. Still, though, out of everything, it's kind of okay. I'll put it in low B. I'm not going to be able to say this name here. In tenets, mendicant preachers, monasticism, which allows people to become monks, and pastoral isolation, which allows other Christian faiths to be considered righteous in this one, which is pretty good. You know, it's never a bad thing to not be surrounded by hostile neighbors. It also gives plus 30% conversion resistance, which shouldn't affect you too much, because if you're losing wars, you should try to reconquer as fast as possible instead of waiting 20 years. It does give minus 10% dev growth, which is pretty bad. It's pluralist, which gives another minus 20 conversion speed, and it also considers other Christian faiths to be astray instead of hostile. Sure, you know what? If you played this one, I definitely wouldn't question you at all. I think it's pretty good. Probably middle B is where I'll put it. Insularism is kind of that one Christian denomination which you always see but always forget about. Usually because it gets taken off the map in like 100 years, and it doesn't leave that strong of an impact on anything. Monasticism, vows of poverty, and rite, which allows new faiths to keep their old head of faith on creation. It keeps the ecumenism thing, which allows other Christian faiths to be seen as astray instead of hostile. All insularists also get plus 5 opinion of same faith, minus 10 head of faith opinion, and faith creation and reformation costs minus 25, which is pretty funny. One of their key tenets is literally saying, change our faith for us. Go on and do it. I just think that's kind of strange. Decent sins, decent virtues. It does say that marriage is monogamous. I swear it's not monogamous. I'm pretty sure that it's polyamorous. Oh, it's actually in their culture. So honestly, them technically being monogamous is actually a huge bonus for them. This one is not that bad at all with that in mind. It still isn't best. I wouldn't put it above anything in B. It's kind of getting lowish B because a vows of poverty is still pretty bad. Mozarabism is basically Catholicism light. Communion, rite, which means that they have the Pope as their head of faith. Adaptive, counting conversion resistance plus 30%. Infidel vassals are less likely to join independents and populist factions, which is actually a great thing to have. All Mozarabs get plus 15. Opinion of different faith liege. Different faith liege opinion plus 15. Different faith popular opinion minus 25. 4 virtues, 4 sins. Monogamy. Ecumenism, so crusades can't be called. Pluralist. Minus 20 counting conversion speed. Horrible. I'm probably actually going to put it in A. This one. I think it's pretty good. Yeah. A. Our first A tier. Apostolic is the one that I really like. Just with its color. I don't think I've ever actually looked at its tenets. Aniconism, like I said a few times now, pretty bad. Communal identity, horrible. Communion, it does have a head of faith, so yeah, sure, why not? Sins, virtues, just bland, boring stuff. Everything else, basic. I really can't put it in A. Just because the communal identity is so bad. I really think I'm going to put it in like low B. At best. Now, Coptic is one that has seen a few changes, I think, since it's been in the game. The first 10 is Alexandrian Catechism, which gives all cops, I guess is how you say that, monthly learning lifestyle experience plus 20. I take learning every single chance I get, so I like this one personally. You might not like it, but I think it's a good one. It does have communal identity. And it also has monasticism, which I'll never say is a bad one to have. Communal identity really holds it back, in my opinion. I don't know, mid B, I guess. Okay. And now all we have are the 2 big ones. Let's start with Orthodoxy first. Looking at tenets for Orthodoxy, they have communion. Obviously, they have a head of faith for it. Monasticism, and the Pentarchy. All good tenets. It has all good virtues, and every single one of its sins are ones that I wouldn't personally take. And the virtues are traits that I try to pick every single time, basically. It does have ecumenism, which makes other faiths be considered astray instead of hostile. This one is obviously one of the good ones. There are no super bad, obviously bad things about this denomination. Out of everything so far, this would probably be the one I take. It's going in very high A. And finally, here we are. I don't even really need to introduce it. The tenets are pilgrimages, which makes crusades possible. Communion, they have the Pope. Monasticism, people can become monks. Virtues and sins are all good. Monogamous, divorcing to be approved. Everything is basically criminal. Before creating this video, I didn't realize that every single other Christian denomination didn't actually have armed pilgrimages in their tenets. So this is the only Christian faith that allows it. And because of that, just because of being able to do crusades, I think it goes an S. Honestly. Crusades, especially if the faith is as big as Catholic is in both starts, you can just get a ton of people helping you out and forcing new Catholic kingdoms to pop up. I know it's kind of boring, honestly. You know, like, I'm sure if you guys are mad, oh, Catholic is an S. Yes, it is. It's that good. Alright, here's my list. If you guys have issues with my list, let me know. I'm sure some of you people do, for minor things here and there. If you do, actually, I don't mind at all. You know, I'm sure I forgot a few things that are pretty important for some of these. So yeah. If you guys have any other ideas for videos, just let me know. And thank you for watching.